Coverdell, and today I'm going to be giving a psychology presentation on personality theories, and more specifically the psychoanalytic theory. To begin, personality can be defined as the combination of characteristics or qualities that form an individual's distinct behavior and character. And so the theory on personality that I'm going to go more in depth with, like I said, is the psychoanalytic perspective. This perspective was developed by Sigmund Freud, and the assumptions behind this theory is that emotion disorders spring from unconscious dynamics such as unresolved sexual and other childhood conflicts and fixation at various developmental stages. Defense mechanisms, he also said that defense mechanisms fend off anxiety, and Freud's view on personality was that it consists of basically 3 different types of levels. There's the id, the ego, and the superego. So the id is basically made up of pleasure-seeking impulses, and the ego is reality-oriented executive impulses, and then the superego is an internal set of ideals. And so this is kind of what the picture that I put on here shows. It's kind of like an iceberg, and so like at the top of the iceberg you'd have your you have basically like who you are, and then you have the ego and the id, and then the superego all kind of built up. An example that kind of like would describe this is if a little boy went to the store with his mom and he saw a toy truck that he really, really wanted. And so his id would basically tell him like, oh, I really want this toy, so I'm gonna take it. And then his superego would be like, I'm gonna get in trouble, like this is stealing, I really shouldn't take it. And then the ego is basically those two coming together and basically making his decision that he's like either going to take it or not going to take it, depending on which one is more like pulling him towards. Freud's personality assessments were free association, which is basically where one idea kind of sparks another type of idea. Projective tests, which are like words, images, or situations that are presented to a person, and then their responses are analyzed. And then also through dream analysis. The stages that Freud described as the developmental stages were oral, which is the 0 to 18th months, where basically the main focus is the pleasure centers in the mouth. If you think of like babies, they have like pacifiers, so it's like teething and like sucking. It's the pleasure centers in the mouth. And then there's the anal stage, which is like 18 to 36 months, where if you think of kids who are going like in that age, they're just learning to kind of like control their bladder and bowel movement, and so they kind of start getting potty trained and start learning to do like control that on their own. And then there's the phallic stage, which is 3 to 6 years, where basically the pleasure zones are in like the genitals and coping with their like newly discovered like sexual feelings. And then there's latency, which is like 6 years old at puberty, where it's basically your dormant sexual feelings and like being able to control where they didn't have that kind of control before. And then finally there's latency is 6, and then there's latency, which is 6 years old at puberty, and then puberty beyond is like the maturation of the sexual interest. And then for my discussion, I've had some prior knowledge on this subject just because I've taken psychology classes before and I've really enjoyed taking them, and I remember learning about like the iceberg and how it was all made up with like the id, the superego, and then your just normal ego, and I thought it was really interesting how they used that diagram to kind of match it. And I thought Freud's theory was very interesting, and I think it like makes a lot of sense where he's coming from for it. And that is my presentation, so.